There are last-minute miracles. And then there is what Shohei Ohtani did in the bottom of the ninth inning against the Braves. Because miracle is a word that gets used too easily in sports. It gets attached to comeback wins and lucky bounces and the kind of fortunate moments that feel significant in the moment but fade from memory within weeks. The word gets borrowed so frequently that it starts to lose the weight it was always supposed to carry. What happened in the bottom of the ninth inning was not that kind of miracle. This was the other kind. The kind that stops people mid-sentence. The kind that makes grown adults grab the nearest person regardless of whether they know them. The kind that empties living rooms in seconds as people run to find someone, anyone, to confirm that what they just witnessed actually happened and was not some collective hallucination produced by the accumulated tension of 9 innings of baseball. Bases loaded. 2 outs. Bottom of the ninth. The Dodgers one swing away from losing everything they had spent 9 innings building toward. And Shohei Ohtani in the batter's box. What came next sent an entire nation into a frenzy that no sports broadcast, no highlight package, no carefully written recap could fully contain. What came next was a grand slam so perfectly timed, so completely impossible in the specific context of the moment it arrived, that the Braves, a professional baseball organization with experienced players and veteran composure, did not just lose. They collapsed. Completely. Visibly. In a way that revealed exactly what it feels like to be on the wrong side of the most extraordinary player in baseball when he decides that losing is simply not an option. This is the full story of that bottom of the ninth. Every pitch. Every moment of tension. Every second of the collapse. And the swing that made a nation lose its mind. You are not ready for how this one ends. To feel the full weight of what happened in the bottom of the ninth, you need to carry every inning that came before it. Because grand slams do not arrive in a vacuum. They arrive at the end of a story. And the story of this particular game against the Braves was the kind that builds slowly, inning by inning, in the specific way that baseball at its most dramatic always builds. Not through explosive early moments but through accumulation. Through the gradual tightening of a game where both teams understand that the margin between winning and losing is razor thin and getting thinner with every pitch. The Braves came into this game with purpose. They had prepared specifically for this opponent and this moment with the kind of organizational focus that a team brings when they understand that the game on the schedule represents something larger than a single entry in the win-loss column. Their pitching was sharp. Sharp in the way that makes a lineup of professional hitters look slightly smaller than they normally do. Sharp in the way that keeps runs off the board not through luck or favorable bounces but through genuine execution and a genuine plan against a genuine opponent. Through the early innings the Dodgers were being held. Not dominated. Not overwhelmed. But held. Contained within a range that kept the Braves competitive and kept the outcome genuinely uncertain in a way that had the crowd inside that stadium shifting in their seats with increasing frequency as the middle innings became the late innings and the late innings became the final ones. By the time the bottom of the ninth arrived, the situation is what it was. Bases loaded. 2 outs. The Dodgers needing everything from one swing. Ohtani walking to the plate. Let's stop for a moment and sit inside that situation. Because describing it statistically does not capture what it actually feels like to be present for it. Bases loaded means 3 teammates standing on 3 bases, each one representing a run that will score if the ball finds a gap or clears a fence. 3 men who have done their jobs, who have reached base through their own skill and effort, who are now entirely dependent on what happens in the next at-bat for their work to matter. 2 outs means 1 more strike, 1 more weak contact, 1 more pitch that beats the hitter, and it is over. The inning ends. The game ends. Everything that has been built through 9 innings of professional baseball resolves in the worst possible direction for the team at bat. Bottom of the ninth means there is no next inning. No opportunity to regroup and respond and find a way to make it right in the frame that follows. This is the frame. This is all there is. Whatever happens in the next few pitches is the final answer to the question the game has been asking for the previous 2+ hours. And the crowd inside that stadium knows all of this. Every single person in those seats is carrying all of it simultaneously, the bases, the outs, the inning, the stakes, and processing it through the specific lens of watching Shohei Ohtani prepare to hit. Which means they are terrified and hopeful at exactly the same time. Terrified because the situation is objectively desperate. 2 outs. 1 swing from elimination. The Braves pitcher standing 60 feet away with everything required to end it right now. Hopeful because the person in the batter's box is Shohei Ohtani. And whatever the situation, whatever the count, whatever the pressure, there is always, with Ohtani, the specific incredible possibility that he will do something nobody saw coming. The at-bat began. The Braves pitcher was not going to give in easily. That needs to be acknowledged before anything else about this at-bat is described. He worked. He competed. He executed with the kind of professional precision that gets a pitcher to the 9th inning of a game this important against an opponent this dangerous. He was not a passive participant in what followed. He was fighting with everything available to him. The count developed through pitches that each carried the full weight of the situation. Every ball was a breath of relief for the Dodgers dugout. Every strike was a tightening of something that was already wound as tight as it could get. The crowd responded to each pitch with the specific noise of people who cannot contain their reaction but also cannot afford to exhale fully. A sustained, fluctuating, completely involuntary expression of mass tension that rises and falls with each moment but never fully releases. Because it hasn't resolved yet. The tension cannot release until the at-bat resolves. The pitcher made his decisions. Ohtani made his. Each one processing the previous pitch, the previous at-bat, the previous game, all of the information that elite performers carry into each moment of competition and use to shape what they do next. And then the pitch arrived that completed the picture Ohtani had been building since the first pitch of the at-bat. The swing happened before conscious thought could catch up with it. That is how the greatest swings always happen. Not as deliberate decisions but as the natural conclusion of the preparation so complete that the body knows what to do before the mind finishes forming the instruction. The contact was immediate and total. The kind of contact that produces a sound different from any other sound a baseball bat makes, the sound that everyone in the stadium recognizes before the ball is traversed 20 feet as belonging to a completely different category from everything that came before. The ball went up. And up. And the Braves pitcher stood on the mound and watched it go. There is a moment, when a grand slam lands in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs after a game of sustained tension, where the losing team has to absorb something that goes beyond the normal experience at losing a baseball game. They have to absorb the specific devastation of being 9 outs from winning, then 8, then 7, all the way through until one swing removed every single one of those remaining outs simultaneously and replaced the outcome they had spent 9 innings building toward with its exact opposite. The Braves collapsed. That word is used deliberately and specifically. Not because their players lacked professionalism or their organization lacked standards. But because what happened in that moment, the sudden, complete, irreversible reversal of a game they had been controlling, produced a visible response that no amount of professional composure could fully contain. The pitcher who threw the pitch stood on the mound for a moment longer than pitchers normally stand after a hit. Not frozen exactly, but present in the specific way that a person is present when they are trying to process something that their mind has not yet fully accepted as real. The fielders who had been positioned and ready and professionally prepared for whatever contact might happen stood in their positions and watched the ball land somewhere that ended their season's momentum in a single second. The dugout that had been poised for celebration, that had been carrying the particular energy of a team that believes it is about to win, absorbed the reversal in the specific silence that follows shock before the alternative emotion has fully arrived to replace it. The Braves collapsed because what Ohtani did in the bottom of the 9th was not just a home run. It was the complete and sudden destruction of a narrative they had spent 9 innings constructing. A narrative that said tonight was their night. That said they had done enough. That said the preparation and the execution and the professional excellence they had brought to this game was going to be rewarded with the outcome it deserved. One swing erased that narrative entirely. That is what collapse looks like from the inside. The reaction that followed did not stay inside the stadium. It never does, with Ohtani. The things he does on a baseball field have long since outgrown the physical space where they happen and moved immediately into every channel through which baseball exists in public consciousness. Social media captured it first. The clips of the swing, the flight of the ball, the moment of landing, they moved with the speed that only genuinely extraordinary moments produce. Not the speed of content being pushed through promotional machinery, but the organic speed of people sharing something because they cannot help it. Because they watched it happen and their immediate instinct was to make sure someone else saw it too. Television replayed it continuously. Not because the broadcast schedule required it, but because every time the clip ended there was an implicit collective demand from everyone watching to see it again. To watch the swing again. To watch the ball meet the bat again. To watch the Braves pitcher stand on the mound again and absorb the moment again. Across the country, in living rooms and sports bars and particular spaces where people gather to watch baseball and baseball matters, the reaction was the same. The specific frenzy that arrives when sport produces something that exceeds what everyone present believed was possible even moments before it happened. A nation that had been watching a tense, hard-fought game between two professional baseball organizations suddenly found itself watching something else entirely. Something that belonged not in the conversation about tonight's game but in the conversation about the greatest moments the sport has produced. Ohtani had done it again. In the most impossible moment. Against the most prepared opponent. With everything on the line and nowhere to hide, the full weight of expectation and pressure and the specific scrutiny that follows him everywhere he goes. He had done it again. There are last-minute miracles. And then there is what Shohei Ohtani did in the bottom of the ninth inning against the Braves on the ninth, when losing was the only logical outcome. He decided that logic was not a sufficient reason to accept it. Bases loaded. 2 outs. A nation holding its breath. The Braves one pitch from the Cleveland Baby that had spent 9 innings earning. One swing. Grand slam. Bottom of the ninth. Game over. The Braves collapsed in a specific devastating way that teams collapse when one player does something so far outside the range of what the moment allowed for that there is simply no professional composure adequate to absorb it gracefully. And the nation that watched it, in stadiums and living rooms and sports bars and every space where baseball lives in the hearts of the people who love it, lost its mind completely. Not because it was unexpected. But because even knowing what Ohtani is capable of, even having watched him do the impossible so many times that the impossible has started to feel like his baseline. Even knowing all of that going into the bottom of the ninth. Nobody was ready for what he did. Nobody ever is.